This demonstration goes over the steps required to give an FX supervisory station the ability to create custom reports and then either email them or save them to a file. Now, the initial setup of the FX supervisory station has to be done with FX Workbench. After the station has the setup, future changes and reports can be created using an Internet Explorer connection. Now, the Johnson Control stations come from the factory with the reports jar file already loaded into it. So after you open up, you'll need to go into the station and view the services. Now here are the services. You can see them all listed, and there is not a report service listed. So up here is a notebook, and this is a sidebar. We can open this up and open up the palette. Now, once we have the palette open, we can go to the directory, type in report, and choose the report palette. Now, we'll open up the report palette, and there's a report service. Now, we simply drag the report service up and drop it. And now you can see that we have a report service. Now, once you click on the report service, you can see that a wire sheet opens up. And underneath the palette, under reporting, there are several other modules. The first is an export service, and we can drag that over and drop it. And if we double click on it, you can see that we have a schedule, and we have a source file. The source file will be the report that we create, and over here on the schedule will be when we trigger it to have our report written. Then there's an email recipient. We can drop that off. And then we have a file recipient. We can then go ahead and take the output to create an email recipient and a file recipient. Now, we'll come back to these modules after we create a report that we want to email or save to a file. Now, let's look at another couple of blocks, and let's look at the component grid. And I'm going to drag this over. Now, this is another part of the report functionality, and let's rename this, and we'll call it heat pump data, and click OK. Now we'll double click on that and open up the grid editor. Now, the component grid is not a report. However, it does create a table that can be added to a report. And what we're going to do is create a table of heat pump controllers that have the identical application file loaded in them, and then each one of these controllers can have multiple points. So let's come up and look at our device network. And here's the BACnet network, and here are all the controllers. Each one of these are heat pumps. Now, the first step is to define this template row. And to do that, all we're going to do is drop the controller in that row. Now, we have defined the application for this component grid. The next step is to populate the columns. So let's go ahead and take this and drop it up into the column name. And you can see when I dropped it, it came up with the name of the controller. So this is the display name of the controller. Now I could go ahead and double click on that and change the name. In this case, I want this name, so I'll just cancel it. And now I'm going to open up the points list. And we can go ahead and drop these points in. Now you can see now I have an effective zone temperature. And if I double click on this, I could go ahead and just rename this whatever I wanted. So zone temp. Could be room temp or whatever we wanted to define it as. Okay, then let's drag the effective cooling set point over. And again, we can double click on it and we can say cooling set point. And let's drag the effective heating set point. And again, we can say heating set point. And let's put the discharge air temperature. And we can do the leaving water temperature. And let's drop the fan command. And maybe we want the filter status. And occupied status. Okay, so just strictly dragging and dropping our names and renaming, we can create a table. Now that we have the first controller in it, we can go ahead and drag other controllers and drop them. And we just keep dragging until we populate this report with all the controllers that we are concerned about. And I'll drag a bunch at once. And we'll even drag another group. Okay, now I can go to the grid table, save the changes, and now we can view our table. Now this table can be added to a report. Now this has been part one of the reporting functionality for the FX supervisor. In part two, we will go ahead and create an actual report.